All right, breaking news, or supposedly breaking news. Apparently, Islam Makhachev has reportedly declined a fight against the 145-pound champion, or I guess he's not the champion anymore because he relinquished his title, but still, Islam Makhachev has reportedly turned down a fight against Ilia Topuria, which I think is going to catch a lot of people off guard. A lot of people just assumed that Ilia, following his back-to-back knockout victories, first to gain the title from Alex Volkanovski and then to defend it against the legend Max Holloway. After announcing his move to 155 pounds, presumably the only fight that made any sense was a fight against Islam Makhachev. Ilia Topuria being undefeated, Islam Makhachev being almost undefeated with only one loss on his record. The two of these guys being major international stars for the UFC, who, according to some people, is having a bit of a star problem. This fight seemed like a no-brainer, but this is actually a situation that we've already gotten a good amount of clarity on because Dana White has already spoken about why there wasn't an immediate announcement of a Ilia versus Islam super fight once Ilia relinquished his 145-pound belt.
I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, you had a big week at the UFC. Some crazy stuff went down. With Ilia moving up to lightweight, vacating the title. You weren't able to announce it then, but is it safe to say that Ilia Islam is the fight that we're sort of working towards, or could he be fighting?
There's still other possibilities. So there's a lot of shit going on right now.
Yeah.
Now, I think that I've already read between the lines here. I think I know exactly what fight he's talking about. But first, let's go ahead and look at the rankings. So when you look at the 155-pound rankings, the first option you see, obviously, Islam Makhachev, the champion, who it's already been confirmed Ilia is not fighting him. Next, we have Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira. Now, either of these guys make sense to fight for the belt or to fight Ilia. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan already was scheduled to fight against Islam Makhachev, pulled out due to a back injury, and now is just kind of being sent backwards in the queue to have to take another fight. Charles Oliveira, actually in almost the exact same situation, had to pull out of a fight against Islam Makhachev for the belt and ended up having to fight Arman Tsarukyan back at UFC 300. Next, we have Justin Gaethje, who we just saw fight and beat Rafael Fiziev, and apparently right now it looks like Justin Gaethje is the front runner to fight for the belt. And then we have Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. Max Holloway obviously coming off of a knockout loss to Ilia Topuria. That fight doesn't make any sense for Ilia. The Dustin Poirier fight could make a lot of sense. Poirier being a pretty big name in the UFC, one of the perennial stars, a guy who says he only has a couple fights left, but to be honest, he has made mention of the fact that he's looking at legends only for his last couple fights. And while Ilia Topuria is a legend in the making right now, I don't know if that really qualifies for what Dustin's looking for. And I think Dustin, who's also coming off that loss to Islam Makhachev, is not really looking to take a fight that angles himself towards the title. And because of that, I don't think that fight makes any sense. And that leaves us with three names: Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, and Justin Gaethje. Now, any of those would be absolutely insane fights, and any of those could make sense if Ilia is going to take a one-off fight before fighting for the belt. And look, if I'm Islam Makhachev, I don't want to fight Ilia Topuria, not just because he's a dangerous fight, but because Islam has already fought and beaten the 145-pound champion who's coming up to challenge for his belt twice now. And we all know what the narrative is going to be. If Islam loses that fight, or even if he wins, a lot of people are just going to run with the idea that Islam spent half of his title reign defending against 145ers. And honestly, despite how good Volk and Topuria are, I think they're two of the greatest fighters of all time, that criticism would be correct, just factually. And that brings us to what Ilia Topuria himself has said about his next fight. He said that when they announce it, you won't believe it. Obviously teasing that it's going to be something outstandingly big. Now, a fight between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, even Dustin Poirier, Arman Tsarukyan, any of these would be major fights, but I would believe them. They would make a lot of sense just looking at the rankings. But Ilia Topuria himself, the same way that he predicted how his title run would work out, how he's going to go in there and knock out Alex Volkanovski, be the first guy to knock out Max Holloway, and actually did those things, in that same breath, he already predicted who his next opponent would be. And if that happens, it actually would be unbelievable. And it's none other than the notorious one.
And Conor McGregor, if you still have some balls, I will be waiting for you in Spain.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new champion!
Now, since this moment, he has walked back these comments a little bit, saying that now, if he was offered this fight, he would say no, because he feels like at this point, he's a bigger star and Conor's kind of washed up in his eyes. And I think that, look, that's an argument that holds some weight, but at the end of the day, this is a business. And with Conor being still to this day the biggest star on the UFC roster, the UFC needs to find Conor a fight. It's either that or just hold on to, again, one of the biggest, money generating fighters on the roster up until he's too old to be able to put on a fight that generates those kind of big numbers. Or, and this is a tactic that the UFC has done for a very long time, you bring in the old star to fight the new one. That way, if Ilia goes in there and gets a big time knockout, you kind of hope that he takes a lot of that shine that McGregor used to have, and now you put that on a young 27-year-old super exciting champion who in a lot of ways is kind of just the new McGregor. And if you follow Ilia's comments about his next fight being unbelievable, and I did a video about this a while ago about Conor already kind of hinting that he has a fight lined up for this November, and if I'm Ilia and I'm going up in weight, giving up the belt and not fighting the champion, I don't know if there's another fight that makes as much sense financially or even legacy-wise than the Conor fight. Because now that Max Holloway's at 155, he's going to need another fight before he fights for a belt. Same with Charles Oliveira, same with Arman Tsarukyan, and same ideally with Justin Gaethje. So yeah, I don't think it's set in stone, but I think that this fight, from the perspective of what every single person involved is saying, makes a lot of sense. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think this fight's realistic? Do you think it's going to happen? And if it does, who you got? Thanks for watching.